I told my fiancé a dark secret before our wedding. He disappeared for days, then my family blamed him at Thanksgiving until I finally confessed the truth. The apartment was quiet when I told him. It was a Tuesday night, and we were sitting on the couch after dinner. My fiancé, Ethan, was scrolling through his phone, half listening to the TV. I had been planning to tell him for weeks, but every time I tried, my throat closed up. We were 7 months into our engagement, and the wedding was 3 months away. I couldn't keep it from him anymore. Not if we were going to build a life together. I turned off the TV and faced him. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding. I told him about the thing I did when I was 19. The secret I had buried so deep I barely let myself think about it. I didn't cry or raise my voice. I just laid it out, fact by fact, like I was reading from a list. It took maybe 10 minutes. When I finished, I waited for him to say something. He didn't. He just looked at me, his eyes wide, his face blank. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was like he was seeing a stranger. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked out of my apartment. The door clicked shut behind him. I sat there for an hour, expecting him to come back. He didn't. The next day, I texted him. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. By the second day, I was checking my phone every 10 minutes, refreshing my messages, wondering if I should call his friends. On the third day, I got a text from his sister, Claire. She said Ethan was safe but needed space. That was it. No details, no timeline. I didn't know where he was or what he was thinking. All I knew was that I had told him the truth, and now he was gone. I didn't tell anyone else. Not my parents, not my friends. I went to work, smiled through meetings, and acted like everything was fine. But every night, I lay awake, replaying the moment I told him. His silence. His face. The way he left without a word. I started to wonder if I had made a mistake. Maybe I should have kept it buried. Maybe some secrets are better left unsaid. The days stretched into a week. Ethan's absence was a weight I carried everywhere. My apartment felt too big without him. His toothbrush was still by the sink, his running shoes still by the door. I didn't touch them. Moving them felt like admitting he wasn't coming back. I kept texting him, short messages at first, asking if he was okay, if we could talk. Then longer ones, apologizing, explaining why I hadn't told him sooner. He never replied. My calls went unanswered. Claire didn't text again. I started avoiding people. My best friend, Sarah, asked why I seemed off. I told her work was stressful. She didn't push, but I could tell she didn't buy it. My parents were harder to dodge. They called every few days, asking about wedding plans. The venue was booked, the dress was fitted, and the invitations were ready to send. I couldn't tell them the truth. I wasn't ready to face their questions or their disappointment. So I lied. I told them the wedding was being pushed back. I said it was a scheduling issue with the venue. My mom was skeptical. She asked why we couldn't just pick a new date. My dad said it sounded like Ethan was dragging his feet. I deflected, said we were sorting it out. They didn't press too hard, but I could feel their doubt. I hated lying to them, but the alternative was worse. If I told them Ethan was gone, I'd have to explain why. And I wasn't ready to dig up that secret again. Work became my escape. I stayed late, took on extra projects, anything to keep my mind busy. But every time I checked my phone, hoping for a message from Ethan, the silence hit me like a punch. I started to wonder what he was doing. Was he with his family? His friends? Was he telling them what I'd done? The thought made my stomach twist. I didn't know if he was angry, hurt, or just done with me. All I knew was that I had told him the truth, and it had driven him away. 2 weeks after Ethan left, I got a text from him. It was short. I'm back. Can we talk soon? My hand shook as I read it. Relief flooded me, but it was mixed with dread. He was back, but what did that mean? Did he want to fix things, or was he just coming to end it? I texted back, saying I was free whenever he was ready. He didn't reply. The next day, I saw him. He showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, and there he was, looking tired, his eyes shadowed. He didn't smile. Neither did I. He came inside, sat on the couch, and we just looked at each other for a long moment. I wanted to ask where he'd been, what he'd been thinking, but I didn't. I was too afraid of the answers. He said he wasn't ready to talk about it yet. He needed more time. I nodded even though it hurt. I asked if he was staying in town. He said he was, but he didn't say where. I didn't push. He left after 20 minutes, promising to reach out soon. The door closed behind him, and I felt emptier than before. He was back, but nothing was resolved. The distance between us was still there, wider than ever. Thanksgiving was a week away. My parents were hosting, and the whole family was coming. Ethan was invited months ago, back when everything was normal. I didn't know if he'd show up. I didn't even know if I wanted him to. The thought of facing him in front of everyone, pretending everything was fine, made my chest tight. But I couldn't uninvite him without raising questions. So I waited, hoping he'd text, hoping he'd give me some sign of where we stood. He didn't. The lie I told my parents was starting to crack. My mom called, asking if Ethan was coming to Thanksgiving. I said I wasn't sure. She asked why. I mumbled something about his work schedule. She didn't say anything, but I could hear the judgment in her silence. I knew they were talking about us, wondering what was wrong. I couldn't keep the truth from them forever. But I wasn't ready to face it myself, not yet. Thanksgiving arrived, and the house was full. My parents' dining room was packed with relatives, the table covered with food. The air smelled of turkey and pie, and everyone was talking over each other. I sat near the end of the table, picking at my plate, trying to blend into the noise. Ethan showed up late, just as dinner was starting. He came with his brother, Mark, who gave me a quick nod. Ethan didn't look at me. He took a seat across the table, his face blank. The tension was immediate. My parents greeted him politely, but their smiles were tight. My mom kept glancing between us, her eyes sharp. My dad was quieter than usual, his jaw set. I could tell they were watching him, waiting for something to explain the postponed wedding. I avoided their gazes, focusing on my food, but my stomach was in knots. Ethan barely spoke. He answered questions with short words, nodded when he had to, but mostly stayed silent. Mark tried to fill the gaps, making small talk, but it didn't help. After dinner, people moved to the living room. I stayed in the kitchen, helping with dishes, hoping to avoid Ethan and my parents. But my mom followed me. She started asking questions. Why hadn't we set a new date for the wedding? Was something wrong? Her voice was low, but I could hear the accusation in it. I mumbled the same excuse about the venue, but she didn't let it go. She said Ethan seemed distant, like he wasn't committed. I didn't know what to say. I just kept scrubbing plates, hoping she'd drop it. She didn't. My dad joined us, and things got worse. He said Ethan was disrespecting me, dragging things out, making our family look foolish. His voice was loud enough that people in the living room could hear. I saw Ethan through the doorway, standing with Mark, his shoulders stiff. He didn't move, didn't defend himself. My parents kept going, their words sharp, blaming him for the delay, for his silence, for everything. I stood there, frozen, my hands wet from the sink. I wanted to stop them, but I couldn't find the words. The guilt hit me like a wave. My parents were tearing into Ethan, and he was taking it, not saying a word. I knew why. He was protecting me, even after everything. He could have told them the truth, could have thrown my secret in their faces, but he didn't. He just stood there, letting them think he was the problem. I couldn't let it go on. I put down the dish I was holding and walked into the living room. Everyone was watching now, the room quiet except for my parents' voices. I said I needed to tell them something. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. I didn't look at Ethan. I couldn't. I started talking, keeping it vague but honest. I said I had done something in my past, something I wasn't proud of, and I had told Ethan about it. I said that was why the wedding was postponed. I didn't give details, didn't lay out the whole story. Just enough to make it clear it wasn't his fault. The room was silent when I finished. My mom's face was pale. My dad looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. My aunt was there, sitting across from me, her eyes wide. Ethan's brother, Mark, was staring at the floor. Ethan finally looked at me, his expression unreadable. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. My cousins and uncles were frozen, their forks halfway to their mouths. The weight of their stares was heavy, but I didn't look away. I stood there, waiting for someone to say something. My mom was the first to move. She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. She asked what I had done. Her voice was sharp, demanding. I shook my head, said I wasn't ready to talk about it. My dad started to argue, but I cut him off. I said it was between me and Ethan, and it wasn't their business. That didn't go over well. My mom's face tightened, and my dad's voice rose, saying I owed them an explanation. I didn't back down. I said I told them what they needed to know, and that was it. The room stayed tense after I spoke. My parents didn't let it go, but they stopped pushing in front of everyone. My mom pulled me aside later, into the hallway, away from the others. Her face was tight, her eyes searching mine. She asked again what I had done, why I was protecting Ethan. I repeated that it wasn't his fault, that the delay was because of me. She didn't believe me, not fully. She said I was covering for him, that he was manipulating me. I shook my head, told her she was wrong. She didn't argue, but the look in her eyes said she wasn't convinced. My dad was worse. He didn't talk to me directly, but I heard him later, muttering to my uncle in the kitchen. He said Ethan was trouble, that I deserved better. He didn't know the truth, but he didn't need to. He'd already decided Ethan was the problem. I wanted to tell them everything, to make them understand, but I couldn't. The secret was mine, and dragging it out again would only make things worse. I felt trapped, caught between my family's anger and the truth I wasn't ready to share. Ethan didn't stay long. He left with Mark an hour after my confession. He didn't say goodbye, didn't look at me as he walked out. I watched him go, my chest tight. I didn't know if he was angry, hurt, or just done. The silence between us was louder than ever. My relatives whispered after he left, their voices low, speculating. I ignored them, helped clean up, and kept my head down. But I could feel their eyes on me, their questions hanging in the air. That night, I drove home alone. My apartment was dark, the silence heavy. I checked my phone, hoping for a text from Ethan. Nothing. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night. My parents' accusations. The way Ethan took the blame. The moment I spoke up. I didn't regret telling the truth, but it hadn't fixed anything. If anything, it had made things messier. My family was angry, Ethan was distant, and the wedding felt further away than ever. 2 days after Thanksgiving, Ethan texted me. He asked to meet. I agreed, and we set a time to talk at my apartment. My stomach was in knots all day. I didn't know what to expect. Was he going to end things? Did he want to try again? I cleaned the apartment, more to keep busy than because it needed it. When he knocked, I opened the door, and there he was. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped, but he met my eyes this time. We sat on the couch, the same one where I told him my secret weeks ago. He didn't waste time. He said he'd spent those days he was gone thinking about what I told him. He'd stayed with Mark, talking it over, trying to figure out if he could move past it. He said it wasn't just what I'd done, it was that I'd kept it from him for so long. He felt like he didn't know me, not really. His voice was calm, but there was pain in it. I listened, my hands clasped tight in my lap. I wanted to explain, to make him understand why I'd hidden it, but I didn't interrupt. He said he'd come to Thanksgiving because he didn't want to let my family down, but he hadn't been ready to face me. When my parents blamed him, he didn't fight back because he didn't want to betray me. He said he still cared about me, but he didn't know if he could marry me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I nodded, my throat tight. I told him I understood, that I didn't expect him to have an answer right away. I said I was sorry for keeping it from him, for putting him in that position. He didn't say much after that. He just nodded, stood up, and left. The door closed behind him, and I sat there, alone again. The weight of his words settled over me. He wasn't saying no, but he wasn't saying yes either. Everything was still up in the air.